But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the halfway mark. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and master swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com.
Welcome, everybody, to another Ultimate Swimmer podcast show. I'm your host, Josh Davis, and I'm very excited to be with a legend in the realm of coaching. He was 31 years at Johns Hopkins, Division III Coach of the Year 7 times in those 31 years. He's guided swimmers to conference titles, All-American titles, and NCAA titles, too numerous to count. And get this, in 2014, he was named Fortune magazine's top 50 leaders in the world. That's impressive. If you look at that list of top 50 in the world, and I get to interview one of the top 50, that's big time. And he's pursued excellence on the swim deck, all while battling cancer for many, many years, but still pursuing excellence despite all the different trials. And he's a legendary maker of ultimate swimmers. Please welcome Coach George Kennedy. Thank you for being on the show, George.
Thanks, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Well, anytime someone has produced ultimate swimmers for 30 plus years and had that much success, and with swimmers that come back and say how impactful it was and how enjoyable it was, I want to spend some time with you. And I know our listeners will want to learn from you as well. So maybe you could just take us back to something in your childhood, young adulthood, of your first experiences with the water and kind of what led you into coaching.
Sure. Thanks, Josh. It's quite an interesting story. When we were kids, we were playing tackle football across the street, and they had the biggest yard in the neighborhood. And my sister played, and she was what was considered a tomboy back then, you know. And she was, I believe she was 6 at the time, and I was 4. Well, she broke her collarbone one day, and back in those days, the collarbone was casted. And the doctor set the cast too tight, and so she became partially paralyzed. And the doctor's recommendations, a different doctor, of course, were to swim, to join, that swimming would be the best exercise. She was in a brace. And so we joined, and my swimming career really began through my sister's broken collarbone, but we joined the local summer league pool. And I can't say enough about how that impacted. It started with Summer League, and my first coach was actually a football player at the University of North Carolina. His name was Bo Wood, and he swam in high school. So a lot of times the folks would get jobs as in the summer as swim coaches at these Summer League pools. And so it was really powerfully impacted me because 10 years later, ever since I met Bo, I wanted to go to the University of North Carolina. He invited us to see his last college football game when I was 10. And at that point, I didn't really look at any other schools and ended up at UNC. So My first coach was really impactful in my life, and as was my sister. So it's an real interesting way to start. Yeah.
That's a cool story. So many people, Olympians, coaches, have been impacted by summer league.
Yeah.
You fall in love with the water. You fall in love with the team process and the community, the culture.
Right.
So I love that, and we need to keep summer leagues healthy across the country, because that's the starting point for so many good things.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
Now, UNC is a great university, great town, great college. Any swimming highlights of your time there? I mean, did you swim on that team, or did you just go to school there?
Yeah, I swam on that team and was not recruited, but lightly. Came from a small high school program. Really didn't swim much club in high school, but my experience with being on a team with a group of guys in college, with a common goal, really helped guide me, because we were a little bit of a mess, our first couple of years in college, and to have that guidance and the direction and to be part of something bigger than us, I think really was super. I would believe that my strength to some extent grew as a team member. I probably wasn't a great team member as a freshman year, just trying to sort some things out. But by the end of 3 or 4 years, never really was one of the top swimmers at UNC, but always valued that experience. Yeah.
Well, that's not uncommon to trying to use the first year or two to get settled and kind of find your groove, so to say.
Right.
So
right.
Same thing happened to me at Texas freshman year, made some mistakes, learned, and kind of found my groove by my junior year. And, Eddie does a good job of kind of guiding us, not really with a whip, but just, getting us on track.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously you learned a lot about growing up into manhood while at college, and tell us about how you got into coaching after that. What was the process from college to Johns Hopkins?
Yeah, the really powerful thing for me is that the summer league piece stayed intact throughout. I would as a young kid, I would teach some swimming lesson maybe at 14 or 15, and the really neat thing about summer league is you have 15, 16, 17, 18 on the same team as 4-year-olds. And so there's a real emphasis on modeling, role modeling, maybe, and there wasn't much pressure in summer league, but I always remember the little kids, you just pay it forward. As a little kid, I looked up to the older kids, and then the older kids looked up. So I started with like some swim lessons, back in the day when as a 14, 15-year-old, you're making about $1.50 a half-hour lessons, right? And then you move on to that and continue to enjoy coaching in the summer league in between years in college. And then when I had graduated at UNC, Frank Comfort took the job at UNC and asked if I wanted to stay on, and I stayed on and got a master's degree while helping coach as an assistant coach at UNC. And then and the progress process from there took me to Gettysburg College for 5 years. And I was the head swimming coach. I taught 5 classes, and I was the director of the bowling alley. So on Friday nights, I knew where I was going with my wife. We would, grab some beverages and go down to the bowling alley, and that was the highlight of the Gettysburg evening. No, we had a blast, and I learned a lot at Gettysburg, and actually the teams there taught me a lot. As a young coach, you really don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You think you're this guy coming in from North Carolina, and the kids do too. Oh, he's coming in from D1. We're going to kick butt in a few years. Well, all it took was our first taper to fail miserably, and it brought me back to reality. So, but it's that thing, and I think it's the piece of perhaps not being one of the top athletes was truly helped me understand maybe that kid that some way could contribute to the team, but not necessarily was the fastest kid. So we always had a lot of value for maybe the kid who got a 4.0 or 3.8 in the classroom, worked his butt off. The kid who, perhaps would be elected as a captain, but may not even make the conference meet, that kind of thing. And so I always respected my coaches for kind of nudging me and not pushing me to become more of a positive person and contribute. And so I felt like, you carry it forward. That's how I contributed. And so Tim Welsh was the head coach at Johns Hopkins at the time, and Tim and I and Gettysburg was in the same conference as Johns Hopkins, and Tim had told me he was going to be leaving to go to Notre Dame and asked me if I was interested, and I said, heck yeah. So, at that point we applied, and I think it was back in the day where really folks were hired without this elaborate process of Skype interviews and everything else. You just kind of bring you down with a couple other guys, and I was very fortunate to get the job. So, yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Tim Welsh, just a saint of a guy, and much beloved by all coaches. So
wonderful guy, and I think perhaps one of the smartest coaches in terms of I could always talk with Tim, and he was pretty cerebral. I was a phys ed guy, and I said, Tim, speak my tongue. But he was just great. And I was a young coach. Tim was probably 10 years older or so, and really helping me acclimate to the Gettysburg scene, and then helped me really, I think, in the process to get the job at Johns Hopkins.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And a place like Gettysburg is kind of a safe place for a young coach to cut their teeth.
Right.
And learn some tricks.
Yeah, it was really a wonderful experience. I was 25 at my first head coaching job, and again, it was a great place to cut my teeth. And you look back and you say, hey, you did the best that you could. And
right.
I always try to look back and rather than say should have done something, could have done something, and just changing that S to a C doesn't beat me up, as I look back, because you do the best you can at the moment. And I give a lot of those not so young folks anymore a lot of credit. I was 25 and they were anywhere from 18 to 21 at the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated that you had to teach 5 classes.
Yeah. And one of them was like it's like had to wear a shirt and tie in the classroom class. It wasn't just some phys ed classes. And you do what you need to do to get that first job. You really do. And I was so excited. And my wife, Helen, has been, we've been together for 39 years now. And she's just been such an impact on my life. And we moved to Gettysburg, and she's from the South. So it was really interesting going into the first town circle. They call them rotaries in the South, the right. Circle. She's driving into town. She goes, which way? She had never seen one before. I said, you always stay to the right when you're driving in the United States. So it was awesome. Yeah. But,
that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, Johns Hopkins. I mean, one of the top schools in the world.
Right.
The student athletes you now get to work with are unbelievable. These guys and gals are geniuses who are, going to change the world and change their communities and businesses. And but now they have this swimming schedule that's pretty intense. That's a trick balancing that. They've got high academic goals and commitments, but us swimmers, we got to put in the time in the pool to be successful in the pool. And what an incredible challenge as a coach. All the while, you've done a superb job of building a culture and keeping it positive and fun. And so just hats off to you. So maybe you can just tell us your process of finding what works.
Right. And I truly believe that the piece that worked as I progressed as a coach was when you first go to Gettysburg and I first went to Hopkins, you think it's all about you. You think it's all about, well, I'm going to Hopkins, but in 5 years, I'm going to go to Indiana, that kind of thing. And as soon as it became about the athletes and as soon as it became about something bigger than me, our teams became more successful. I could try as hard as I wanted, but, you know, and I'm not saying it was egomania, but every coach has that ego piece. You know, how am I going to get this kid faster? And I think what I really learned is when we use we're in it together, and it creates a valuable connection. I learned that when, you know, if someone was struggling, the appropriate language would be, we can do this better. We can improve. Not like when I was in 7th grade and I had that teacher saying, you can do better, you know, and it just alienated you a little bit. And we always recruited hard. Frank Comfort was at Johns Hopkins in the 70s and built the program up to where they won 3 national titles in the 70s. And Frank was one of the first Division III coaches, or at that point in time, it was called small college coaches, who recruited. And he landed some amazing athletes at Hopkins. One guy, a guy named Bill Milne, and made the finals of the 1972 Olympic trials in Chicago. And so, you know, I mean, that Frank just had some amazing, and that was a first for a small college. And but I learned that from Frank, to write handwritten letters, to make the phone calls when you needed to perhaps try to outwork folks from the recruiting, because you can get the fast swimmers, but you want to get the right people in your program. And so I learned as the process went on, we were recruiting to some extent the fast swimmers. I always thought it was good if we were recruiting against the Ivy Leagues, if we were recruiting against UVA or UNC. And if we could land one of those folks, wow, we're getting a Division I athlete in a Division III program. But I found that as the years progressed, it wasn't so much that less is more, but training smart was much more effective and connected a whole lot more with the athletes, especially at a place like Hopkins, than just pounding yards and having really no real reason of doing it other than this is what Dick Schulberg does. And I love Dick. But my funniest story with Dick is I would go to all these clinics and Dick would be speaking, or Frank Keefe, or some of these guys with big time yardage. And I'd come back to our program on a Monday and we'd be doing some of the stuff that they were talking about, you know? And so the kids on the team all looked at me and said, where did you go this weekend? You know, and it would be like, you know, I'm
like, oh no, we went to another conference.
Right. And so I'm working with a lot of athletes who wear doing hundreds on a 115 base was pretty, you know, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I come in and say, okay, we're going to 10,000 swim for time. Looking at me as, what planet are you from? You know, so through the years, I had a wonderful athletic director at Johns Hopkins. His name is Bob Scott, and he's everything about lacrosse, but he valued relationships with people. And he was way ahead of the game, I felt, in that one day he talked to me about philosophy, his philosophy, and he coached in the 60s and became the AD in the 70s. But he said at that point in time, to him, it was all about being results driven, but establishing great relationships along the way. Yeah. And so the process was driven by his connection with his folks and the relationships, but without being results driven and trying to be, you know, get those results at the end of the year. He felt that any goal you set along the way was just a temporary thing, you know. And so, but then I went to a swim clinic like 2 or 3 years ago, and Carter Cast, who swam at Stanford, was speaking, and he's a professor at the Kellogg School in Northwestern, and he was speaking about leadership, and he said the 2 most important factors that a great leader has is being results driven and the relationships along the way. And it was really wild because some things in our sport haven't changed like that, while other things are just so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate to get the right people at Hopkins. It was in a city where I could attract great assistant coaches, whether people, I said, I can give you a t-shirt and a pair of gym shorts, but that was about your pay, and we turned our program from being real intense yardage wise, and perhaps my personality just being really stern and strict, which is important, to the idea where we wanted to play swimming. A lot of other sports play, and you play football, or you play the guitar, or you play cards, and we were just swimming, and with swimming and running, you just either swim or run. And so we would do some really interesting things during warm-up, like turn the pool into a summer league pool, and just kind of do dolphin dives off the bottom, or throw those little torpedo thingies in, and Josh, the amazing thing was we'd go to the main set after that, and they were every bit as well warmed up as if we were doing the normal 400, 400s, 450s warm-up, Right. And it was fascinating to me then how important the connection to their brains became, in that if they truly believed in what they were doing, there would be a trust, established. And that piece was so powerful. Remember, the top female swimmer we had, she would scramble. I called scramble in her freestyle, not catch a whole lot of water. She went at 100%. And so I went up to her before one race, and I said, swim this race and just go 95. She goes, 95. I said, 95%.
Yeah.
She goes, 95%. Beautiful, hits her turn the right way. So she comes out, and from that point on, everything she said to me, and we overdid it, but 95, right, Coach? Yep, 95. And she just went on to be tremendous in our program. She was National Swimmer of the Year in Division III, swam for Macedonia in the Olympics, and she's just a story where you get the athletes, or you try to help them believe what you believe, and then it works. And so it went from kind of being this jock type approach to a little more Tim Welsh cerebral with the kids, and try to understand, putting myself in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah. I love that. It's, you're always learning, always experimenting. And, Eddie says, we got to do stuff harder, but how do you got to make it funner too?
Right.
In a way. And that's very difficult. You got to plan, you got to prepare, you got to keep learning and studying. And, so I'm glad people are listening to this, because there's always something we can learn from.
I wanted to take a moment from this fascinating interview to let you know about a new partner for the Ultimate Swimmer podcast, and that is SwimShare. SwimShare is a free workout riding tool. Just Google SwimShare, all one word, SwimShare. And you can put in today's workout in just a few clicks, and it sends and stores all your workouts within seconds. The first workout you'll see on there is one of my favorites from yours truly. Check out SwimShare and take your workouts to the next level. Send, store, and share your swimming masterpieces with SwimShare.
What did you do personally to kind of stay motivated, stay in it? And you also were battling some cancer through a lot of that.
Yeah.
And dealing with different health issues and life issues. And so maybe you can share a little bit about your personal journey of staying motivated, finding the routine and balance, family, business, swimming. And
Josh, my faith is really strong to me, and I don't want to come on and preach to other people. There's a fine line there, but maybe the biggest influence in my whole life was when I was in the 8th grade. My mother had gotten cancer, and it progressed real quickly, and she died at home. Way ahead of the game. Most people died in the hospital. There really wasn't hospice back then, but she died in her bed at home. And each afternoon, my senior year, I'd get home from school before swim practice, or I ran cross country that fall. And I'd go up to the room, maybe from 2:30 to 3 before practice. And there was not ever in her eyes any fear. And I really wasn't involved with Christ until the powerful moment of seeing that there's something to this. And I don't want to preach it, but as soon as I saw that my mother was not afraid to die, it set up my whole life that really I wasn't going to be too afraid of anything, and I was going to keep marching, and my attitude was going to kind of, I mean, I don't want it to sound like, oh, kumbaya, but my attitude was really going to define my direction.
Yeah.
You know, and after seeing that, it was just so powerful. And I just felt like there's something to this. There's something greater than me right here, right now. And so there's a lot, believe me. But that piece set up, I think, my ability to structure my life in a way where if things came up, it took a lot for me to get kind of fired up. I mean, once I did, I could get fired up, but you know, things were more of an inconvenience than problems.
Right.
And we looked at that, and I looked at that a lot with our team, because at Hopkins, the academics were so hard that if they looked at it as a problem all the time, they get stuck. It's like getting stuck in quicksand. Where if you look at an inconvenience, you know, you can move on from it. And so that piece, I think, really helped me, that I started looking at things more as inconveniences than as problems.
Right.
And that helped me coach. And then literally we started to connect more and more with the team when we looked at things outside of swimming, like what is the most productive way to schedule your day with work to rest ratios? And the team really got into that. And then we did something that I really, you know, swimming is a lot of plagiarism, if you will. You know, you do this because Eddie did it. You did this because Schulberg did it. You do it because Josh is doing it. But we decided that during our taper, we were always doing pretty well with our teams at NCAAs, but we needed to make a change to kind of go from good to great. I mean, we were in the top 10, but there was always, you might have seen this a little bit, but many of our team members looked forward to the end of the year more that, you know, that it was going to be over than that we were going to go and kick butt at NCAAs, you know? Right. And so we took a training schedule where instead of looking at the work week of being 7 days, where you go 6 days on and 1 day off, during our taper, we would go 4 days on and 1 day off. And we naturally cut, because I think what you're trying to do is, work your speed into the system, where you've had your speed into the system, but get rid of some of that residual fatigue so your speed is up during your rest period. And so we naturally were resting. The kids loved it. And they connected, and they, so like we would go, like during our taper practices, we'd go like an effort day for the first day of a cycle. The next day would be an effort day. The third day, we'd say, come in and loosen up on your own and feel better when you get out than when you got in. The fourth day would be an effort day. And then that evening, they'd get massages. And then the fifth day was off.
Wow.
And so like when we came back from our conference meet, we would take that first Monday, just not much of an effort, just get rid of, regenerate a little bit. But then, we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was off. Then we went Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday was off. And then, and it was just a different setup. Yeah. They loved it. They felt like they were special. I said, what are the benefits at the end of the year? I wrote these down, if you don't mind me saying some of these.
No, please.
But the team then said, why? I said, why is this working? Because we then went to the NCAAs. It wasn't going to work unless we got results. Right. We went, and the first event was the women's 500 free, and in Division III 459 made NCAAs, where a young lady in the morning goes 452. Right. Then the next event's the men. It's combined meet. And our guy comes in at 426, and he goes 421. And I'm saying, whoa, and you know how it works, where if you're swimming fast that first day, it carries through.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're messing it up big time. So why did the cycle thing work? And so here were some of the things that the team came up with and told me, is that they were able to get about 1 hour of sleep more every night because they knew they had the 5th day off and they could catch up on their work then instead of staying up late at night.
Right.
So that's one thing. The second thing was they felt really powerful about getting a scheduled massage the night before the day off so that they could really totally take that one day off and recover in a way where, sometimes people say, do your massage or you're stretching on the day off. Well, then you're sore from that the next day, So they came in and the first day, I think the first day of whatever you're doing really matters. And the first day, they were sharp because they had their recovery, and then it just cycled through from that. And we just said, it created less stress. They felt like they were doing something special. It was different than the whole year. So they were really prepping for the NCAAs. And they enjoyed it along the way to the extent where a couple of them who were the workaholics, I call them, they said, hey, can we just get in the water on that day off and loosen up a little, And it was like, I'm not afraid, that's okay, but just don't overdo it, Yeah. And there was really a bond created. And it created much more of a connection with me and the team.
Yeah.
If you can understand that we were doing this. And so we continued to do that and then tweak that pattern as we went. So like if we, went, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in there would still be a couple double practices, strength training session. But if we went Saturday, Sunday, I always respected Sundays, and we would go maybe at 1:00 in the afternoon. So if folks needed to go to church, they could. But also Sunday was a day where maybe we pushed in and that was one of the smooth days, or not. And I can't tell you how many times I hear somebody say, well, we're not tapering well, or this or that. And I think it's just because we train all year and they say, we're going to taper, but I felt good because it wasn't something we plagiarized. It was something that we established.
Yeah.
And it was really cool that way. And our kids owned that. And so it was fun.
I love that. How many years did y'all apply the 4-1?
The 4-1 was done probably our most successful years. It took me only 25 years to develop that, Josh. So it was like we started that in the I think it was in the 2013 NCAAs, and we had a really special meet. And in the way it was broken down, and it was the third night. I remember we were still good on the third night, and we had a young man. The last individual event was the 100 back on the third night, and we had a guy who was 7th at the 50 wall and won the 100 back. And then our women were seated 4th or 5th and won the 800 free relay. And then our men, and Kenyon and Denison are the big schools, and they were talking who was going to win the 800 free relay, who was going to win the 800 free relay. Well, we had 2 kids who had never been under 139, and they both went 136.8 on the relay. And we won that relay by 2.5 seconds. So when your number 2 guy in Division III goes 136.8, you're breaking open, and the scariest thing to me was that our anchor on that relay had a .08 relay start. I thought we jumped. I thought we were way ahead and jumped, but no.
A little too perfect.
Yeah. So I know we're running short on time, but I love these stories, and I really think that probably the biggest maturation for our team was when we looked at things where we're working smart instead of just pounding yards, and that really related to the Hopkins kids. They love smart stuff, So,
yeah. No, their mind can. This makes sense. There's some scientific proof here that the recovery is just as important as the hard work, and it's something they can own that's signature to them.
Right.
I love that. Real quick, what other practical tips do you have that you guys applied as a team? Building culture, team traditions, certain banquets, certain awards, certain little practical things throughout the day and the season that were traditions for you guys that kind of made a difference. If you have any of those that come to mind, I'd love to hear those.
Yeah, I think the piece that I shared one time was with someone was that they mentioned, what are some of the most important pieces, to your program. What do you remember? And I can honestly remember every first day of practice, every first practice that we've done through almost every year, because it's so exciting. And this year I'm helping out with the Loyola University program now as an assistant coach. Yeah. And because of COVID, we couldn't get in the water until November 1st. Well, the head coach and I, Brian, and I'm just an assistant, we were like little kids chomping at the bit. Hey, can we get in on Monday? And we're waiting now to get back in because we had to get the COVID test. So the first, I would say a tradition really is to try to get everybody excited for the first day. And then on Halloween, we always had a really fun practice where for years I had called all the big time programs in the country. I called Texas, and Matt was it Matt? Who was the assistant coach?
It was Chris Kubik forever.
Chris. Yeah. Chris was really good about this. And then, but I called Jack Barrowley, Frank, and get practices from like Georgia, Texas, UNC. I stayed away from Schulberg after a while, but, and then we had a 6-lane pool, and I'd come in and we'd roll a die with each kid. And if they were 5, then they would get placed in lane 5, and that might be the UNC practice for the day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it was really good. And so Halloween became a really important annual practice for us each year. And then we did some pretty special things during final exams. One of the parents would bring in, our last practice that we could really have before final exams was just a fun practice. We turned it into a summer league pool again, and that was a great tradition. It's more of that kind of thing because the budget restricted what we could do with banquets and that kind of thing. And the school had a nice all sports banquet for the seniors. And then just the traditions, the normal traditions like you might have for the last home meet for the seniors was always very special, and we would go out to eat. The parents and the coaches would go out to eat with their student athletes in Baltimore. There's some good places. And always the NCAA championships were real big. At the end of the year, we'd hold the day after graduation, I'd have all the parents and the graduates over to our house for lunch the next day. Because graduation was usually on a Thursday, and we'd do that on a Friday. And it was the highlight of my kids' career. I heard you had some kids in the background, right? When I heard your call to me the other night. You have young kids?
Yeah, I have 6. I have 5 older teenagers and a surprise 4-year-old. So,
well, I think it's a surprise 4-year-old.
Well, the 4-year-old usually likes to help me in the home office sometimes.
Yeah, and I think I heard them, and I can't tell you how much we let our kids take off from school for that picnic each year because they love it. They're wandering around there, and the team loves having the little kids around. Mm-hmm. So in terms of traditions, it's really what we did within our means in terms of financial, but it was really special, and it still is special. And so
any sets or favorite dryland movements, favorite sets, anything like that come to mind that will really kind of confuse for you guys?
I'm really playing with maybe not just sets, but like kind of training theories. And there's a theory out there that's called Pomodoro, which is a 25-minute on, 5-minute program where if you want to be really effective or productive through the day, work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, do that like for 4 sessions in a row, then take a half-hour break, and then go through your day that way. I found that was really helpful for me in the office. I could focus, 25. But then we started doing it with the team. So if we had an hour and a half practice, we might go 25 on, 5 off, 3 rounds of that. And if we did 25 on, for a 2-hour practice, it'd be 4 times. And then we also incorporated there's some information of productivity where you go 52 minutes on and 17 minutes off. So we started incorporating how to be productive within the two, the hour and a half or 2 hour time slot, which I thought was really cool. I just feel that our women's teams took off. We were really maybe one of the highest accomplishments is in 2014. Our women won each of the relays at the NCAA championships, which is really, it's really special because that's a team, and we had just won one relay prior to that with our women's team. And so they won each relay, and they all contribute it. They seriously all contributed to the number of pull-ups they could do from when they came into school to when they stopped. Like Anna, this really great swimmer we had, could do one pull-up as a freshman. She graduated being able to do 15. In one setting. And
for a female, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think what we were fortunate and we were able to do was look at what components are really going to help somebody improve. And I felt like vertical jump, anything you could do with vertical jump and pull-ups were great. And we would get the comments that year at the NCAAs, what are you doing with your dry land with your women? They look unbelievable. They're in the lead after the start. And I said, well, I'll talk to our dry land coach, But it was an emphasis. It's more like not just a set, but it's an emphasis on pull-ups and vertical jump. And it was an emphasis on the 25 on and 5 off. So there's, and as you go through your cycles, you can tweak that. I could talk a lot, but I think the last point that I would really share is I think the mind relates to patterns. So we go through a taper, and let's say, we're doing a certain thing 3 days out from the meet. Well, what I saw, especially with our women's team, was that they really responded with, let's say if it's a set, it might be within a 800 or 900 yards, we're only like there might be 425s in there, odds, smooth, evens, race pace, and then 450s in there, but stuff in between, and you do that. So maybe 3 weeks out, you're doing that 3 times through. And then maybe 2 weeks out, you're doing the same set, but just 2 times through. And then a week out, you're doing it 1 time through. And our teams really related to patterns.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the thing I would say is the pattern training, and the pull-ups and vertical jump. And I still strongly believe in the pull-ups and the vertical jump and patterns with the kids. So, yeah.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
You bet.
So I wrote down finding productive patterns.
Yeah.
And having an eternal perspective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
That's what I'm getting from you.
Good.
And I appreciate you mentioning faith. I appreciate you talking, mentioning your process of results through relationships, our relationship with each other as coaches, our relationship with our swimmers, our relationship to God. Our relationship with our spouses and our family. All those things help create a healthy balance. So we're able to give our best for the kids.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Right.
Is for them. And I just can't thank you enough for making ultimate swimmers at Johns Hopkins for 31 years and now still getting to do it at Loyola. So
thanks for this, Josh. Really appreciate it. And it's great to have that conversation with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is beneficial to other coaches out there and other swimmers. And I look forward to catching up with you on deck again soon. And again, wish you all the best this year, and thanks for making ultimate swimmers.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you. Congrats on all your accomplishments and your family.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Talk to you soon.
Right. Bye-bye.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my favorite swim cap, the Hammerhead swim cap. It's the safest, fastest, longest lasting, most comfortable swim cap in the world. Its one-of-a-kind patented honeycomb shock-absorbing technology will prevent concussions. And the Hammerhead cap has no wrinkles to ensure top speed with the least resistance. And it's super comfortable. That's easy to get on and easy to get off, and it will never tear. This is the last cap you will ever need to buy. Safety and speed, all at hammerheadswimcaps.com. Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an Ultimate Swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your Ultimate Swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal, to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an Ultimate Swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.